My name is Jamie Akers. I'm from Plymouth, Ohio. I've been a volunteer firefighter since January 17th of 1992. My dad and my mom were both firefighters and EMTs until my mom got sick and had to have surgery, so they both left. I grew up right beside the fire department, so I would hear those sirens and it would just be this rush, and I'd think, oh, I want to do that, I want to do that. In 1996, my dad passed away from a massive heart attack. I had never thought about being an EMT until that point. A couple years later, I went to school, I got my EMT. It's a passion, it has to be a passion, because you don't make a lot of money. You're not in it for the money, you're in it just to help people. Several instances where we've had house fires, we've called the Red Cross, and they are amazing. They'll come up and it's like, I don't know how they know who called. And they'll come up and they bring coffee for us, and they bring, a sense of comfort for the family, and they've got vouchers for them to stay somewhere, and they're there to just walk them through the whole process. Because when you lose everything, literally you lose everything. You have no resources anymore. You're lost. You're just so devastated. And it's sad. It's so hard to see somebody go through that. And then the Red Cross comes charging in, and you're like, oh, thank goodness. They know what to do. We don't always. We're in a small town. We have our own little things that we can do for families, but the Red Cross, once we're all done and cleaned up, we get to go home, and they stay and pick up all the pieces and help the families get settled into a hotel and get them some food and clothes, and then help them with the process of moving on. So yeah, they're amazing. I trudged on in the fire department. Let's face it, when you need a firefighter, it's not for a good reason. We see people at their worst. It's really scary. You're not supposed to go into a burning building. You're trained, okay? You know what you can do, what you can't do, and it's just like you just go into a mode where you're just going in to do the job. And do people get hurt? Absolutely. We get burned, we get hurt, we fall. We see people that have been in a car accident, or they've been assaulted, their home's burning, or they've lost a loved one. It's the same type of thing. You're driven to help. It takes a lot out of you, and sometimes you take it home. You just can't help it. And I loved it, and the camaraderie and the brotherhood and the weird sense of humors and everything. And I met Gary Bishop, and he had contacted me and said, I think you would be a great victim advocate. I've seen how you were with my mom and my stepdad. I actually met him a couple years before I ended up having to go to a call at his house. And he saw how I interacted with his mom and his stepfather. And that's how I became a victim advocate with Richland County. And I love my job, and I love helping people, and I don't know, I just get a thrill out of it, yes. As a victim advocate, you're the contact person. A victim can range anywhere from someone that's been robbed, checks stolen, to being in a severe, car accident where someone may be drinking and cause bodily injury, to murder. There's just, if something has happened to you and you've lost property or been injured, you're a victim. So I'm your contact person. And you call me, and I help you get through the process, the court process. I go to court with you. I speak for you if you need me to, or I stand up there with you as you speak. I help you face that defendant when you're in court, which is really scary. It can be scary for us too. And I help you, get some of your property back if it's used as evidence. And it doesn't have to be a person. It can be an entity like a bank or an insurance company or a business of any kind, And so there's a lot that's involved, but the compassion, I've been a victim myself, a survivor of domestic violence. So domestic violence victims hold a very special place in my heart. And I just try to be that mom figure, whether they're older than I am or not. I just try to be that person that they know that they can call me anytime while I'm at work and talk to me. And it doesn't have to necessarily be about what's going on in the case, but maybe what's just going on with them. It's nice that they have someone that understands the dynamic of domestic violence. Well, there's a special dynamic in domestic violence relationships. There's many reasons why people stay. I stayed, and I was too afraid to leave. I didn't feel like I had the resources. I didn't feel like I was smart enough that I could get on my own and do it myself. And so that's what every domestic violence survivor feels. They can't do it on their own. They don't have a job, or they do have a job, or they're afraid to leave. There's children. I want them to have the father in their life. They'll sacrifice themselves for their children. Understanding that dynamic and understanding that, you know, there are ways to get away, but they're not, if they're not ready, they're not ready. Try to point out that, you know, you're a fantastic mom. You have done everything in the world that you're supposed to do. It's not your problem. You didn't do this. The defendant did this. The perpetrator did this. And it's hard for them to see their value when they've been knocked down, sometimes literally and verbally, to see that they have a value. And I try to keep that, I just try to lift them up, you know. It's an awesome feeling to know that you've helped someone get through a situation. It doesn't always have to be, domestic violence is pretty prevalent, but there's other things too, you know, like it might be an elderly person that someone, a caregiver, took their credit card and took their money, you know, or something like that. And to help them, just guide them through the process and be there, you know, a shoulder, so to speak, or someone to talk to, but then to get them justice and to, you know, go to court with them and encourage them to stand up and say, this is what you did to me, and this is how it's affected my life. And sometimes just, it might not seem like a lot to some people, but for someone to actually be able to stand up and say, this is what you took from me, and it's an awesome feeling that they get to have a voice. And that's the whole thing, is giving victims a voice.